Have you ever wondered if someone could fake a mental illness to get out of trouble? It sounds like something straight out of a movie, right? A criminal genius trying to plead insanity to avoid a long prison sentence. Well, this isn't just a Hollywood plot, it's a real-world challenge that forensic psychologists face, and it has a name: malingering. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating science of how experts tell the difference between genuine mental illness and a convincing act. How do they spot the fakers? Let's find out. Malingering is the intentional production of false or grossly exaggerated physical or psychological symptoms motivated by external incentives. In simple terms, it's faking sick for a personal gain. In a forensic context, that gain could be avoiding a trial, getting a lighter sentence, or obtaining disability benefits. It's a high-stakes game of deception, and the consequences of getting it wrong are huge. If a genuinely ill person is labeled a faker, they could be denied crucial treatment. But if a malingerer succeeds, they could escape justice. This is where forensic psychology comes in, armed with a powerful toolkit of science and observation. So, how do they start? The first step is always a comprehensive clinical interview. This isn't just a quick chat, it's a detailed exploration of the person's history, symptoms, and life circumstances. Psychologists are trained to listen, not just to what is said, but how it's said. One of the first red flags is a discrepancy between the reported symptoms and the objective findings. For example, someone might claim to have severe memory loss, but can perfectly recall specific details that benefit their case, like an alibi. They might say they hear voices all the time, but during a long interview, they never seem distracted or respond to these supposed hallucinations. This inconsistency is a major clue. Another telltale sign is the way the symptoms are presented. People who are truly suffering from a mental disorder often try to minimize or hide their symptoms due to stigma or a lack of insight. They might be embarrassed or confused. On the other hand, a malingerer might present their symptoms in a very dramatic textbook fashion. They've often done their homework, maybe by watching movies or reading about a specific disorder online. They might describe a perfect, almost stereotypical set of symptoms for schizophrenia or PTSD, but real mental illness is messy and rarely fits neatly into a box. Experienced clinicians know that real patients often have a mix of typical and atypical symptoms, and their stories are usually more nuanced and less dramatic. Think about it like this. A person genuinely experiencing psychosis might be disorganized in their speech, jumping from topic to topic in a way that's hard to follow. A malingerer might act disorganized, but their disorganized speech might still have an underlying logical structure aimed at convincing the examiner. They're playing a role, and sometimes they overact. They might endorse every possible symptom they're asked about, a phenomenon known as symptom over-endorsement. A real patient, for instance, with depression is unlikely to also claim they have every symptom of every other disorder. A malingerer, trying to appear as ill as possible, might say yes to everything, resulting in a bizarre and clinically improbable combination of symptoms. Beyond the interview, forensic psychologists have a battery of specialized tests designed to catch deception. These aren't your typical personality quizzes. They are sophisticated instruments developed over decades of research. One of the most well-known is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, or MMPI. The latest version, the MMPI-3, has built-in validity scales. These scales are specifically designed to detect unusual or inconsistent response patterns. For example, the F scales for infrequency can identify if a person is endorsing a high number of very rare, bizarre symptoms that are almost never seen together, even in severely disturbed populations. If someone's score on these scales is sky-high, it's a strong indicator they might be exaggerating or faking. Another powerful category of tools is called symptom validity tests, or SVT. These tests look simple, but they are cleverly designed. A common type is the force choice test. Imagine a memory test where you re-shown a list of words and then asked to pick the word you saw from a pair of words. The test is made to be incredibly easy, so easy that even someone with severe brain damage would score better than pure chance. Pure chance is 50%. If a person consistently scores significantly below 50%, it suggests they're not just guessing. They are intentionally choosing the wrong answer. They know the correct answer, but are deliberately avoiding it to appear more impaired than they are. This is called the below chance effect, and it's a smoking gun for malingering. No genuine cognitive impairment would lead someone to be actively worse than random guessing. Another example is the test of memory malingering, or TOMM. In this test, individuals are shown a series of pictures and then have to recognize them. The task is designed to be very simple. Most people, including those with genuine memory problems, score close to perfect. Someone trying to fake memory loss might intentionally get many of them wrong. But because the test has multiple trials and is so easy, their pattern of failure often becomes statistically improbable and reveals their attempt to deceive. Of course, no single test is a magic bullet. A skilled forensic psychologist never relies on just one piece of information. They practice what's called multi-method assessment. This means they gather data from many different sources and look for patterns of consistency or inconsistency. This includes the clinical interview, standardized psychological testing, a review of all available records like medical records, school records, police reports, and even interviews with third parties, like family members, friends, or correctional staff. If a person claims they are unable to concentrate enough to read a book, but their cell block officer reports they spend hours every day engrossed in novels, that's a significant contradiction. If they claim to have debilitating social anxiety but are known to be the life of the party in the prison yard, that information is crucial. The psychologist is essentially a detective. Piecing together a puzzle, does the person's reported history match the records? Does their behavior during the evaluation align with their claimed symptoms? Do the test results support a genuine disorder or suggest exaggeration? It's the convergence of evidence that leads to a conclusion. For example, if a person reports classic PTSD symptoms, but their test results show extreme exaggeration on the validity scales, and their own description of their trauma changes significantly between interviews, the psychologist has strong reasons to suspect malingering. It's also important to distinguish malingering from related conditions. For instance, there's factitious disorder, where a person fakes illness not for an external reward like money or avoiding prison, but for the internal psychological need to assume the sick role. They crave the attention and sympathy that comes with being a patient. While the behavior faking symptoms is the same, the motivation is different. And that's an important distinction for treatment and legal purposes. The whole process is incredibly complex and requires a high level of expertise. Psychologists have to be careful not to be overly suspicious, as this could lead to false accusations against genuinely ill individuals. They must maintain objectivity and rely on the data. They consider cultural factors, language barriers, and the person's genuine intellectual ability, all of which can affect how symptoms are presented and how tests are performed. The pressure is immense, as their findings can dramatically influence the outcome of a legal case. Their report can mean the difference between a hospital and a prison, between a disability check and unemployment. So, while the idea of faking a mental illness to beat the system is a popular trope, it's much harder to pull off than you might think. Forensic psychology has developed a sophisticated, science-based approach to cut through the deception. By combining in-depth interviews, clever psychological tests, and thorough collateral investigation, experts can identify the subtle and not-so-subtle signs of faking. It's a fascinating intersection of psychology, law, and human behavior, where the search for truth has profound real-world consequences. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of forensic psychology. If you found this as interesting as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content on the fascinating complexities of the human mind. Let me know in the comments what you think. Could you spot a malingerer? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Now let us look at a more sophisticated attempt to fake mental impairment. Jodi Arias and her selective amnesia. On June 4, 2008, Jodi Arias murdered her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander, in one of the most brutal killings in recent true crime history. She stabbed him 27 times, slit his throat from ear to ear, and shot him in the head. The attack was frenzied, prolonged, and required sustained physical effort. When first questioned by police, Arias claimed she wasn't there. Then, when presented with overwhelming evidence, her palm print in blood at the scene, her DNA on the body, she changed her story. She admitted she was there, but claimed two masked intruders broke in and killed Travis while she watched helplessly. That story fell apart too. Finally, Arias settled on her third version. She killed Travis, but it was self-defense because he attacked her. And here's where the fake mental illness performance begins. She claimed she had PTSD-induced memory fog that caused her to forget key details of the killing. She could remember every detail leading up to the violence. She could remember conversations, what they wore, what they ate, the sequence of events, but the actual killing. Foggy, unclear, traumatic amnesia, she claimed. Forensic psychologists know that genuine traumatic amnesia doesn't work this way. Real PTSD and dissociative amnesia typically involve either complete blackout of the traumatic event or intrusive, overwhelming memories of it. What you do unsee is convenient selective memory where you remember everything except the parts that make you look guilty. Dr. Janine Dumart, a clinical psychologist who evaluated Arias, testified that her memory fog was fabricated. Real trauma victims don't have crystal clear memory up until the moment that's legally problematic. Then sudden fog, then clear memory again afterward. But here's what made Arias' performance particularly interesting from a psychological perspective. She was too detailed in some places and too vague in others, and she couldn't keep the balance consistent. When asked about Travis's behavior before the attack, she provided elaborate detail, specific words, he said, the exact tone of his voice, what he was wearing, where he was standing. But when asked about how many times she stabbed him, fog, which hand held the knife, fog, whether she shot him before or after the stabbing, can't remember. Real memory doesn't work in such legally convenient patterns. Then there's the behavioral analysis during interrogation. Arias displayed several classic signs of malingering. First, she overendorsed symptoms. When psychologists asked her about PTSD symptoms from a standardized checklist, she claimed to experience nearly all of them at maximum severity. This is called symptom exaggeration, when someone trying to fake mental illness does UNT understand that real PTSD patients do UNT experience every single symptom at once at maximum intensity. Real psychological disorders are messy and inconsistent. Fake ones are too perfectly textbook. Second, her affect didn't match her claims. In interrogations, Arias was articulate, logical, and emotionally controlled, even flirtatious at times, doing headstands and singing for the detectives. This behavior is completely inconsistent with someone experiencing severe PTSD and traumatic dissociation. Someone, genuinely traumatized by killing a person they loved, would be doing yoga poses in the interrogation room hours later. Third, the timeline destroyed her story. Arias borrowed gas cans, rented a car, turned off her phone, and took a route that avoided cameras all before the murder. This is premeditation, not self-defense. This is planning, not trauma response. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Stephen Pitt testified that Arias showed clear capacity for planning, decision-making, and rational thought before, during, and after the killing. Her memory fog was a legal strategy, not a medical condition. Jodi Arias was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. He's sitting across from the detective, and something is very wrong. His head is twitching violently to the left. His eyes rolled back. Strange guttural sounds escape his throat. Then, in a voice that sounds nothing like his own, he speaks, "I am the demon. I made him do it. He didn't want to kill them. I made him." The detective doesn't move, doesn't react, just watch. Because he's seen this before. This is Nikolas Cruz, the Parkland shooter who murdered 17 students and staff members at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. And right now, in this interrogation room, he's trying to convince everyone that he's criminally insane. That voice in his head made him do it, that he's not responsible. But here's what I'm holding back. There's a specific moment in this interrogation where his entire performance falls apart. One tiny mistake that exposes the whole act. A moment that reveals exactly how psychologists and detectives identify fake mental illness from the real thing. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn will change how you see every interrogation, every insanity plea, and every criminal who claims the devil made me do it. Before we break down the psychology of faking insanity and the interrogation tactics that expose it, I need you to do something. If you're fascinated by criminal psychology, interrogation, analysis, and how detectives see through deception, hit that subscribe button right now. Give this video a like and share it with someone who loves true crime psychology. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. I love knowing how far these stories reach. Now, let's analyze what faking mental illness actually looks like. Let's start with one of the most brazen attempts to fake insanity in recent criminal history. Nikolas Cruz and his demon voice performance on February 14, 2018. Nikolas Cruz walked into his former high school with an AR-15 rifle and systematically murdered 17 people. The shooting was planned, methodical, and devastating. Afterward, he calmly walked away, blended in with fleeing students, went to a Subway, then a McDonald's, before being arrested. During his interrogation, Cruz suddenly began displaying what he claimed were symptoms of severe mental illness. He started hearing voices. His head twitched uncontrollably. He spoke in different voices, including what he called the demon that supposedly commanded him to commit the massacre. But here, as what forensic psychologists know, there are very specific patterns that separate genuine psychotic breaks from performed insanity, and Cruz's performance hit every single red flag. First, let's talk about what real command hallucinations actually look like. People experiencing genuine auditory hallucinations don't perform them for an audience. They're often distressed by the voices, not theatrical about them. They might pause mid-sentence, turn their head toward where they hear the voice, respond to it, and show genuine confusion about whether others can hear it too. Cruz, on the other hand, announced his demon voice like an actor taking the stage. "The demon is here," he'd say, then switch to a gravelly voice. It was a performance with clear transitions, like he was switching between characters in a play. Real psychotic episodes are messy, inconsistent, and genuinely disturbing. Fake ones are surprisingly organized. Second, there's the timing problem. Cruz showed zero signs of psychosis during the actual shooting. Witnesses reported he was calm, methodical, and purposeful. He knew exactly what he was doing, pulling the fire alarm to get students into the hallways, targeting specific areas, reloading efficiently. This is not the behavior of someone experiencing a psychotic break or being controlled by hallucinations. The demon voice only appeared after he was arrested, after he knew he was facing the death penalty, after he understood that an insanity defense might be his only way out. Forensic psychologist Dr. Paul Mattiuzzi explains that genuine mental illness doesn't conveniently appear only when it benefits the person legally. It's pervasive, it affects behavior consistently, and it doesn't turn on and off based on whether law enforcement is watching. Third, and this is crucial, Cruz's performance improved over time. He got better at being crazy the more he practiced. Real mental illness doesn't work that way. Symptoms of genuine psychosis are consistent or they deteriorate. They don't refine themselves like a rehearsed act. During one interrogation, a detective used a brilliant tactic. He completely ignored Cruz's demon voice performance, just kept asking normal questions in a calm, matter-of-fact tone. And here's what happened. Cruz became frustrated. The performance wasn't working, so he escalated, making the twitches bigger, the voice more dramatic, the behavior more extreme. This is a key tell. People genuinely experiencing psychosis don't escalate for effect. They're trapped in their experience, whether you pay attention or not. But Cruz needed the attention. He needed the detective to believe the performance. When it didn't work, he tried harder. Then came the moment that destroyed his entire act. The detective asked Cruz a simple question about the logistics of the shooting: how he got to the school, where he parked, how he carried the rifle without being seen, and Cruz answered clearly, accurately, with detailed memory and logical sequencing. No demon voice, no twitching, no confusion. He slipped out of character because the question engaged his actual memory, and for a moment, he forgot to pretend to be insane. Real psychosis doesn't have an on-off switch. You can't temporarily drop your symptoms to answer a factual question and then pick them back up, but performance does. The forensic psychologists who evaluated Cruz concluded unanimously. He was malingering, the clinical term for faking mental illness. He understood right from wrong. He planned the attack. He knew exactly what he was doing. The demon voice was theater, not pathology. Cruz was ultimately found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without parole.